going on.
Thank you so much.
Feel like $1 million.
Shout out TMZ, you up?
Let me check out that rig.
TMZ stands for the Mayweather Zone.
How'd you find me, bro? I got my disguise on.
I love my TMZ family. Smoochie.
Welcome to TMZ Sports. I'm Mike Babcock with my guys, Mojo, Mutati, Lucas, Widman. Fellas, we're going to start with something that might be a little bit familiar to us here at TMZ Sports. Conor McGregor punching somebody, and it wasn't in an octagon. We just put this story up on the TMZ Sports website a little bit ago. Conor was out in Spain. Luke is going to give us a little bit more of the details, at least that we've been able to get kind of acquainted with at this point. But there he is, Conor McGregor, seemingly punching another man who was in this club 2 times with that patented straight left that has made him such a popular and successful UFC fighter. Now, again, this is something that is developing. We do not know all of the information. We are currently working on it, but still, you've got one of the most famous UFC fighters in the world seemingly in a fight once again with a civilian, Lucas, and it's not a great look for Conor.
No, it's not, and we're used to this at this point. But what we're told about this specific incident is that Conor and his boys were having a good time around 5:56 a.m. Tuesday morning at a spot called Patron nightclub. And yeah, that's how they do it over there. But, you know, if you've been looking at Conor's Instagram over the past few days, this is no surprise. He's been living it up and having a great time with his family and his friends. But what we see in this video is Conor is standing, it looks like it's on a platform, a little bit above a man standing in front of him, and at some point the man goes to approach Conor. Conor leans over and listens to what he has to say, doesn't like what he has to say apparently, because he hits him twice with that left that you said, you know,
wow,
made a lot of money off of over the years.
Yeah, that's the punch.
But so we talked to a few people who, you know, got wind of this through Conor's circle and know him, and they say, yeah, it was something that really upset Conor. We don't know what exactly the nature of this conversation was, but it turns out the person who was punched is the one who was kicked out of the nightclub, not Conor McGregor. Conor was free to go about the rest of his night like nothing happened. Now we're told he was a little bit upset, but all things considered, as of right now, as we're talking about this, Conor is not under the legal eye in any potential trouble at this point. Now, that could change if this guy decides that he wants to go to police over it. But, yeah, I mean, we reached out to Conor's camp. They declined to comment. That's where we stand.
I don't know if this means that Conor McGregor, who has not fought, by the way, in almost 4 years now, it'll be 4 years in July of 2021 when he broke his leg against Dustin Poirier, Mojo. That's the last time Conor was actually in the octagon. I don't know if this means that he's ready to come back. He's out there winging punches at people. He's also partying a lot, clearly, like Lucas said. So I don't know what to make of this. I just know that we've obviously seen Conor McGregor punch people before. Remember, it was the bar years ago when he punched a guy who was in his 50s or so. And it's not the first time that we've seen Conor in a situation like this. You would have thought he might have learned his lesson from that incident back then, Mojo. Seemingly not.
Well, Babcock and Lucas, the guy who got punched is still among the living. So I'm going to go ahead and say he's not ready to return to the UFC. Prime Conor might have killed that dude with a couple of lefts, bro. That might have been all she wrote. This dude's more or less walking away unscathed, more or less. Yeah. So I don't know. There's that. What was said that could tick him off? I don't know. I know that in just about any circumstance, though, some words doesn't necessarily validate a physical retribution. Yeah. Who knows if that could have been a setup? Maybe that was, you know, a buddy that was stationed to go film this thing while the dude went and picked a fight. This is what you have to be prepared for when you're a massive celebrity.
Conor McGregor right now, at least, not under criminal investigation. Obviously, that could change. There could be a lawsuit filed. Don't be shocked if that ultimately happens. As for whether or not there will be any sort of UFC punishment, I actually happen to be speaking with Dana White a little bit earlier today as this story was breaking. And at that point, Dana White hadn't even been aware that this had all gone down yet. Now he is, so stay tuned. We'll see if the UFC ultimately takes any actions. But bottom line is Conor McGregor involved in a fight in a club in Ibiza, clearly threw 2 punches. Stay tuned. The Indiana Pacers are one game away from defeat in the NBA Finals, and their best player is down with an injury. So, will Tyrese Halliburton play in Game 6 of the NBA Finals? We'll hear from the NBA star next on TMZ Sports. All right, Mojo, moving on to the NBA Finals. The Oklahoma City Thunder last night win a big game. A series had been knotted up at 2 games apiece. They, of course, OKC returns home, and they get a big win, 120-109 in Game 5. Mojo, they take a really commanding lead now in this series, and I would, from my perspective, this series is over. The Oklahoma City Thunder will be NBA champions. Now, this was a series that the Pacers were really in control of at a point. They were up 1-0, Mojo, and now they've got themselves in a bit of a hole here, down 3-2. To make things even worse for the Pacers is the fact that their best player, or at least arguably their best player, Tyrese Halliburton, re-aggravated an injury, a calf injury, last night. It's something that he had been dealing with throughout the playoffs. But in the first quarter last night, he re-aggravates the injury. He misses a little bit of time. He ultimately comes back in the second quarter, pretty much plays the rest of the game, but he was not good last night, Mojo. He scores 4 points. He ends up going 0 from 6 from the field, and it was not a good game. In fact, it was a career worst as far as points go. After the game, and look, if the Pacers want to win this series, they're going to need Tyrese Halliburton to play and to play well. Tyrese talked about the prospects for him coming back and playing at a high level the rest of these NBA Finals. Here he is.
It's the finals, man. I've worked my whole life to be here, and I want to be out there to compete, help my teammates any way I can. I was not great tonight by any means, but, it's not really a thought of mine to not play here. If I can, walk, then I want to play. So, they understand that, and, is what it is, and, got to be ready to go for Game 6.
Maj, I love him wanting to get out there. I do think, though, you've got to be able to play and to actually help the team. And I think last night you get to a point where he was probably a net detriment out there, as good as he is normally when he's healthy.
That's the key, Babcock. Is he going to be a detriment? We don't necessarily need the best version of Halliburton here, right? We would like that. He just has to be better than the next guy up in order for this to make sense. This is an interesting one, Babcock. Obviously, you're talking about the Pacers. They're not in the finals too often, I would say. No. So this is a very special opportunity, not only for him, his teammates, but the entire franchise as a whole. So, yes, you are going to want to push through. If you're talking about aggravating an injury and turning it into something that might put you out for an entire year where you're going to miss part of next year, if you give the team a chance to win, you take that risk. Absolutely, you take that risk. You're better off being used now than in the beginning of next season. Who cares? The calf injury is something that's very interesting for me. As a guy that has had a calf injury, whose NFL career was more or less cut short by a calf injury, especially one that put me out for 18 months. You got to be careful here, man, because you can't just take the shot here. They can't just shoot up your calf, because what that does is that numbs the area. It allows you to play through it, but then if it tears, now you're talking about a snap where that muscle is going to retract and cause a deficit in your calf where your calf was supposed to be. When that happens, like it happened to me, you're out for a long time and you're never going to be the same again afterwards. So that is a consideration. The fact that he went back out there and continued to play afterwards, clearly the team didn't think that was the same kind of injury where you're worried about a retraction per se. So I don't know, man. Give him a couple of days to heal up, get some rehab, get treated. He might be okay. The fact that they sent him out there is extremely revealing to me that maybe this isn't a bigger calf injury. Regardless, though, you're a basketball player. Your calves are literally one of your most important muscles bouncing around out there all the time. So I guess we'll see, but it's not all she wrote yet, Babcock.
Yeah, Game 6, Mojo, to your point, goes down on Thursday. So he's got a couple days to get healthy. See what happens. After winning his first fight since 2021, what's next for future UFC Hall of Famer Kamaru Usman? We'll ask the Nigerian Nightmare when he joins us next on TMZ Sports. Welcome back to TMZ Sports. Mike Babcock here. Kamaru Usman, he said he wasn't done. He said it right here on this show last week. And if you didn't believe him, well, hope you watched on Saturday, because all he did was go out there and beat 31-year-old Joaquin Buckley, who had won 6 in a row, had beat some killers, and Kamaru Usman wins by unanimous decision. We are so lucky to have the future Hall of Famer here with us right now. Kamaru, brother, how are you? How you feeling, man?
A little sore. A little sore. But all in all, I feel pretty good. It's such a, you forget how addictive this feeling is to be on this side even when you're sore, the
Right.
soreness feels a little better,
Right.
as opposed to soreness from losing. So
Right.
yeah, I
I'm
feel
sure
pretty
you're
good.
sore either way after a fight. It probably helps a little bit when you got the win next to your name, though. You know, Kumar, you've done so much in this sport. You've won huge fights. You've become champion of the UFC. You have defended your belt on many occasions. Where does that win, though, on Saturday against Joaquin Buckley, after what you've been through these last couple of years, how do you rank that victory? Where does that stand in everything you've accomplished?
That one's up there because there's a lot of things behind the scenes that people don't know and necessarily won't hear of. If they do decide to do a documentary one day, then people will get a better insight of that. But as a man, this one was a tough one because the challenge is you could, it's easy to get going. Once you get rolling, you get that boulder rolling down that hill, it's easy to keep that thing going. But the moment it stops completely is, where do you find the courage and you find the strength and to get that thing going again? The reality is you are coming off of 3 losses. And so that was the biggest thing about that, to where it really meant a lot to me to show that, yes, of course, you might put on great performances, but the most important thing at the end of the day is winning. And you have to go out there and win. And, to be able to get that done, it felt amazing.
Looking forward now, Kumar, what, not a whole bunch of guys ahead of you, obviously. What's the ideal next move? What would you like to happen? Have there been any conversations yet? I know it's only been a few days, but any conversations yet with the UFC about what happens next for you? What are we thinking?
Well, I kind of laid out a blueprint for the week of where I want to be and how I potentially want to end this journey. And where that would be obviously fight the winner of Islam and JDM.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, we're in an entertainment company, and I think the UFC knows that the biggest fights that they could potentially make, not just in the division, probably in the company right now. I mean, if Islam is able to get in there and wrestle that belt away from JDM, current pound for pound and former pound for pound finally meet. They're friends, but they finally meet.
Yeah.
I think that's a blockbuster that would do crazy numbers for them, and I think they understand that as well. Or if it's JDM, because I think he's extremely talented as well. So if it's JDM, the new generation of champions taking on the former pound for pound
Yeah.
guy still in the division, it's a humongous fight for them as well. So I think either one of those, they can't go wrong. And then after getting that belt, hey, they've asked and they've
What up?
waited for years and years for me to go up and get that middleweight strap. And why not? I will relinquish that. If Dricus du Plessis is still the champion, an all African card, Africa versus Africa, first card in Africa,
In
because
Africa.
UFC is close. UFC is close to getting that done. Hey, South Africa versus Nigeria. I mean, it's a rivalry that's that's been built forever, a sports rivalry. So
Right.
I think that's another blockbuster. And I think those are two mega events that you're gonna remember for generations. And so if manifestation is very, very powerful.
Yeah.
And if things start to kind of fall in line, I think we're going to see a pretty interesting next 18 months.
Congratulations, Kamaru, once again. So awesome. Awesome to see you back in there doing your thing, brother. Thank you for your time as always, and I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Yeah, before I go, I remember I think coming on here and maybe talking to you guys after I got kicked in the head by Leon
Yeah.
Edwards. And one of the biggest things that really hit me at that moment was the opportunity to prove to myself again that I can get up and do something and get back on the horse. And that eluded me for years. And then injuries piled in and it just seemed like I got deeper and deeper down
Yeah.
into that hole. But to finally crawl out of that hole and still be standing, this is why this win is so special and it meant so much to me.
That's a pretty
Yeah,
cool message to your daughter too, Kamaru, right? Like sometimes things in life don't go the way you hope they would go, but not to be
absolutely.
cliche, but you kind of dust yourself off, you get up and you keep moving forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's as a father, that's the biggest thing that I can because you can tell everybody about it,
Yeah.
but if you can show them, it's a whole nother level of respect that they potentially will have for you. So I'm just so grateful. Thank you guys, always, and I'll be seeing you guys soon.
Bill Goldberg returning to WWE to challenge Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. Some inside scoop on who will walk the Hall of Famer to the ring when TMZ Sports returns right after this.
Waste no more time. One thing, before I go, a few months ago, you started something with me and my family in Atlanta, Georgia. And I am going to make sure that I end it in Atlanta, Georgia. July the 12th. Saturday night, main event. You're mine. Because you're next. Oh, yeah.
Welcome back to TMZ Sports. Mike, Mojo. I mean, that was an awesome moment on Raw, Monday Night Raw. The legendary Goldberg back in the wrestling ring, in the squared circle, Mojo. You heard the fans just absolutely losing it as Bill Goldberg walked out. Dude still looks like he's in incredible shape, Mojo, and he was right there face to face with Gunther. I know the fans super excited about this. Now, you heard him mention his family, Mojo, that Gunther had essentially brought his family into this. Well, we've got a little bit more information about this, Mojo, because we recently had an opportunity to sit down with not just Bill Goldberg, but another person from the Goldberg family, his son, Gage Goldberg, who is a heck of a good athlete himself, Mojo. He's actually, look at him. Remember we talked about the tattoos? He got the iconic barbed wire tattoo on his tricep there, Mojo, his shoulder. Gage is a football player in Colorado right now. A lot of people think he could one day be a wrestling star himself. We sat down with both guys, and make no mistake, there is a plan in place here, and Gage is going to be involved in this match. Watch this.
Goal or the plan is for Gage to be a part of it in some capacity.
He's walking my old ass to the ring, I can tell you that.
Gage, I know you're obviously still focused on football, and we see the shirt there, but down the line, could you see yourself getting in the square circle, doing some wrestling and following your dad's footsteps in another sport?
Down the line, for sure. I mean, it's a backup plan. Football's obviously the number one, and that's the same thing he did. So we'll see where it takes me.
Oh boy, the joys of NIL, Babcock. This would have never been able to happen before they finally opened it up to do things like this.
Yes.
So it's not all financial brand deals and partnerships. We're getting people in other sports doing cool events like this. So that's a pretty cool one. People have been talking for a while. Goldberg's due for a retirement match. He had an agreement with Vince McMahon in the past that he was going to get one last hurrah, as all the big names should. And, I mean, is that going to be here with Gunther? I guess so. He's got the title. He just won it back from Jey Uso. If his son is walking him to the ring, you gotta think he is going to be utilized in that match in some capacity. I mean, Gunther had his cronies before. He had a couple of guys that used to cheat and help him win and all these things. I mean, is young Goldberg going to be a neutralizer? You gotta think maybe that's what capacity they would be using him for. If not, walking pops to the ring is pretty cool. Goldberg has one of the craziest entrances in pro wrestling history, so being able to be a part of that, definitely going to be a special moment for father and son, especially if this is potentially Goldberg's last hurrah. I mean, what better way to go out than to have your son do your iconic entrance? So this is going to be a crazy one. It's very close. We're only a few weeks away from this, so stay tuned. Let's see if the whole family gets involved.
All right, Mojo, we are just about out of time, but we got a great show tomorrow. I think it's going to be pretty great.
I think so, Babcock. I mean, I think personally, in my own professional opinion, that it'll be the best show since today.
I'm a lawyer.